What's going on now? Why are they striking? That's going to put pressure on Netflix for sure.
What would you care to guess they're asking for if you were to give a percentage? These shows don't exist without the writer. They're creating the story.
Yes. Welcome to Backseat Directing,
Where we talk about movies, TV shows, comics, and more.
We're your hosts,
Andrew
and Aaron.
And we put out new episodes every Monday and Thursday.
And on this episode, we're going to talk about the writer's strike, new trailers, and more.
3, 2, 1.
Action. All right, Andrew, there's a lot of new things going on right now in the world of movies and shows, one of which is that the writers of Hollywood are on strike.
Yeah, and there's so many things to talk about in like our world of media in Hollywood right now. So just combine all this stuff like into one hodgepodge episode. They could all be their own topic, but there's just too much stuff in the air and we want to get to talk about everything. So
yeah, we even pushed one of our other episodes a little bit further away so we can talk about this stuff since it's relevant and it's going to start impacting the shows and movies that we watch.
Yeah, and I'm really don't think that we've had a chance to even talk about the writer's strike much on like a personal level. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts on it for the first time here as we're recording. Me personally, I think that this is something that's really necessary. After kind of learning some firsthand accounts and research people who are in the industry and hearing what they had to say, listen to some other podcasts where, you know, writers who are in the union actually spoke on the issues and kind of understanding the nitty gritty of the situation. And I'm going to pass along and kind of share if anybody's listening to our secondhand version of it. I really support what they have going for them. I think that it's something that's necessary in Hollywood. The last big strike that we had was in 2007. And that it seems like these issues kind of boil up, and these issues that we're having now have been in the pot for a while. They're just in 2020, there wasn't exactly the opportunity to strike. I mean, people couldn't afford to not work. They really didn't even have the opportunity in a lot of instances to stop working because they didn't have projects to work on with everything going on with the pandemic. So do you want me to start just by kind of laying some groundwork for the main talking points of the strike and what's going on?
Yeah, like what's happening? I know back in 2007, the strike lasted, like
100 days or something?
Yeah. So what's going on now? Why are they striking? And then how long do we think this is going to go on before Hollywood kind of bends to what their wishes are? What are their wishes? What are they asking for?
Okay, so yeah, a lot of really good questions. And from what I can tell over history, the average length of these strikes does kind of fit the bill of 2007 of around 100 days. They tend to last, weeks and months. Of the big strikes that I saw in my research, the shortest one I think was 2 weeks. So that was kind of the outlier, but the majority of them are, about 100 days. And the longest one went even longer than that, I think 6 to 8 months. So it's hard to predict how long it's going to last, but it seems like based on the trends in history of how long it takes these studios and productions to come to, agreeable terms with the WGA is around 100 days. And with what we're facing right now, other areas of the industries of entertainment are kind of locking arms with the WGA, which if you don't know, I've been saying that a few times, but it's the Writers Guild. So it's the group that represents the writers. It's the union. And this strike just started on May 2nd of 2023. So as of this recording that we're doing now, it's been going on around 20 days. And so we may only be a fifth of the way through it. Could be a lot shorter, could be a lot longer. But like I said, just looking at the trends, we could have a while ahead of us. And studios like, or productions like Stranger Things that have actually the script has been finished writing, they've agreed to halt production in solidarity with the WGA. So despite the fact that they could press on with production, they're standing, alongside the WGA and saying, we're not going to finish this, which is a big deal to a lot of people. Stranger Things is a huge show and it's a huge property for Netflix. So
that's a big moneymaker for Netflix.
Yeah,
so that's going to put pressure on Netflix for sure. Too.
It puts a lot of pressure. And speaking of Netflix, you asked about the key issues with the strike that's going on. I think that there's a lot of oversimplification in the media, maybe, and a lot that myself, before doing a little bit more research, a lot of people don't really understand exactly what they're asking for, exactly what's going on. The outside perception of a strike might just be that people just want more money, and it's not always quite that simple. So some of the key issues in general bullet point format are issues with residuals, issues with streaming, issues with writers' rooms, and opportunities for growth in the field. And another big industry issue and technology issue is with artificial intelligence. So to kind of key in on what those mean individually is that there's issues with pay and residuals for writers in terms of, that ties in with the writer's room issues too, because there's this thing called mini rooms. And basically what's going on in the industry right now is that studios are expecting writers to do more workload and to write shows as part of a smaller unit. So where traditionally a writer's room might have 14 people, nowadays they might have as low as like 4 to 6.
Yeah, they're just spreading everything thin, and it creates almost an unsafe work environment, like in terms of stress, in terms of quality of product. I mean, I'm sure streaming is a big reason for this kind of thinning out of these teams, because I mean, how many new shows are coming out on Netflix every single week? Like that some group has to be writing all of these episodes, all of these original movies. Like that's a lot of stuff that's going around. And if they're asked to do more stuff, but getting compensated the same, like things just don't end up lining up together.
Yeah, when they made a lot of the current terms in the WGA's contract, nobody predicted the way streaming would change the entertainment world that we live in, especially since they weren't in a position to renegotiate in 2020, which the pandemic really launched streaming even further into the stratosphere as like a lot of people's main mode of entertainment. And
I don't even have cable anymore.
Most people don't.
It's just I have access to a few different streaming services, and that's how we watch TV.
But now things are all wonky where the majority of people are consuming media that way. But the residuals, people used to be able to survive off the amount of money in their residuals when a show was aired on.
So what does residuals mean?
So residuals are the payment that people who took part in a project get. It's their percentage of a cut that they get based off ad revenue that is paid towards a project when it's aired on ABC or these other Fox or these other channels. When they air a movie on FX, the ads that they run in between that movie pay for that ad space, and a portion of that money goes to the person who wrote the theme song, and a person who acted in it, and a person who wrote on it and directed it. And now that you have all these projects on streaming, there is that ad revenue is non-existent. The revenue,
there's no more commercials.
Yeah, and maybe there's on some of these things. If you have Hulu with ads, there's some ad revenue.
HBO has ads,
but they don't have the same terms for regulating these as they used to for network television. So things like Netflix, especially,
and I mean, even if it is ads, it's definitely much less.
Yes,
right.
Yeah, it's
a cable TV show.
Well, some of those ads they're running are ads for their own service and their own shows.
Right.
So the bare bones of the issue is you can't be a writer and survive off residuals writing for streaming services, and so much of the bulk of work that is out there in existence now is for streaming services. So they are getting really paid pennies to do more work because the writers' rooms are smaller, and then there's less opportunity for entry into the field, for growth in the field, because when you can only hire 4 writers, you're not taking a chance. You're not hiring these like lower level positions. You're hiring there's a bunch of positions in a writer room, and like the main basic position is like a staff writer, and you continually pump out episodes of a TV series. Well, now look at a lot of these shows. They've got 8 episodes, 13 episodes. That's not a lot of concurrent work. You're getting paid to work on 8 to 13 episodes instead of a 24 episode series. So you can't make as much of a living with all these things combined. And there's not even room to break into the field or grow because they don't want to take a chance on some writer. They have 4 spots to fill. They're going to hire the most seasoned person they can for the job at the best possible rate they can, which means the lowest possible rate they can.
Yeah, I've also heard things too where like the writers aren't having the same opportunities as what they've had in the past to progress up the ladder and like go on site and kind of see how the show's working.
Yeah, they call
on
it
set.
They call it being on production, and they don't. That's the way that you learn to progress into other areas in the field. The way you learn to go from writer to director to producer. You can't learn about production without seeing the ways of production. And that's one of the things that they want to add onto their new contract is nowadays, like maybe one writer can get some small amount of time on production. They want like writers, the WGA wants a writer there for every day of production, a writer. You know, they're not asking for 14 writers. They're not asking for this like superfluous thing, but writers are, in a way, they're like the backbone of the continuity of the story. If the director doesn't know what's been written 10 episodes from now on most episodes of television, like people might think of television being very similar to movies, but it's quite different because the director might direct one episode of that show or 3, and they might be 3 episodes that are like completely different ends of the season. The showrunner and the writers are like maintaining the showrunner maintains overall control of that show the way a director would on a movie. And then the director of a show directs that individual episode, and the writer has, like, whoever's in the writer's room probably has an idea of what happens on episode 10 if you're filming episode 1. So they can tell you if you're saying, oh, we don't really have time for this scene, the writer can say, well, that scene is setting up something. That is important in episode 10. You need that scene. And we're kind of missing these pieces because of the fact that it's cheaper to not pay a writer to be on set all day. And like, some of the deals they have now are like, you can come on set for an unpaid day. Like, that's ridiculous. You're working.
Yeah, that's insane. I don't understand why businesses think that's okay, because it's not.
They're like, this is a favor to you, so you can learn to maybe branch out into producing and stuff like that.
But it's more of a favor to the company because now they're able to do their job better.
I agree. It's mutually beneficial.
Yeah, it gives you a better product, which means more people will sign up for your streaming service or buy cable and continue to watch your show on network TV, and then more businesses pay for the ad space. Like it benefits everyone here. Andrew, do you know what their demands are? Like, what are they asking for? Are they asking for like 100% of the profits or something? Like, why aren't their like needs being met here? Are they being unreasonable?
So I don't know if you actually know the number, but what would you care to guess they're asking for if you were to give a percentage?
So I've done my research a little bit, so I have an idea what the number is.
I didn't know if you were just setting me up, but it's shockingly low. So think in your head as an audience member what you would guess is like a reasonable number for somebody to fight over.
I think it's like of the profits too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's my understanding. They're asking for 2%.
That's
2%
it, of profits to go to the writer's room.
Which makes... This seems shockingly low that you would argue that. You'd be like, oh, you only want 2? Okay. Like the person
I was afraid you wanted 25.
These shows don't exist without the writer. They're creating the story. It's not just the actors show up on set and improv Stranger Things.
I feel like writers just don't get enough credit because I feel like directors get a lot of the spotlight, and actors and stuff too. Actors probably rightfully so because they're in front of the camera, you know, so like it's obvious to see their work. Directors, they're behind the camera, but they still get a lot of praise. But it's these other positions that like you can't do without. You can't do without the writers to make these stories, especially with TV shows that are spanning however many episodes a season over how many seasons. And now we're at a level of television where we expect everything to connect, everything to be one continuous story, you know, like Stranger Things or the Daredevil Netflix series or something like that. We want it all to connect. We want these subplot lines and character developments for each and every character, the villain. Yeah, like you can't do all of that without the writers. And like you said, for shows, the director role is a lot different. It's a lot more individualized per episode, you know, and a lot of times too, like the writers might even direct an episode, you know, so like, and I think that's always best case scenario, even for movies, you know, like if the new Superman movie that's coming out, James Gunn's gonna write and direct it, I'm pretty sure, right? Like that I feel like is a great way, or even the Batman, that's a great way to make sure what happened on paper happens on the camera. And
if things have to be changed from what happened on the paper, it's somebody who understands how those changes are going to affect the rest of the script,
the rest
and the story.
Of the script, and maybe even where they want to go past that script. You know, like, hey, like let's do this shot because I kind of want it to mirror something that I've been thinking of in my head
for the sequel.
Something that's coming up later.
Yeah.
So 2%, I mean, 2% is still a lot of money. Let's not, I mean, this is billions of dollars that we're talking about for this Hollywood movie and TV show industry.
But
like for one group of people to ask for 2%, like that's not that crazy.
We're talking about the other kind of snake oil salesman aspect of this is we're talking about the revenue profits from streaming. And the way that we talked about ad revenue is very easy. Ad revenue on network television is very easy to quantify, but revenue from a streaming service is much more difficult, something we talked about on the show in the past. So since there's not ad revenue, you're paying them based off what you consider their value to the show to be. And they're very cheeky with this information because streaming services like Netflix will rank the top 10 most popular shows on Netflix right on their platform. And then they'll turn around and say to the WGA, how are we supposed to pay you based on viewership? We really don't track that information, which seems like a bold-faced lie.
They have to be tracking everything.
Yeah, they're tracking all of it. They just don't release it. It's limited who knows what the actual numbers are.
Exactly. I mean, even when we've looked it up, like how are these streaming services making all their money? Like it's hard to find.
They have to quantify it though.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, how do they know what shows to cancel and to make 5 seasons of Stranger Things?
Right.
And we don't mean to pick on Stranger Things. I'm actually very proud of them for what they're doing.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, it's just the easiest example to pull out of
Stranger Things because it's a high level show that a lot of people love.
Yeah.
We're definitely not picking on it because it's doing anything wrong.
Yeah,
but definitely not the case.
We haven't even touched on the AI issue. So you mentioned their demands. The 2% is one of their demands. Another one of their demands is to have a writer on set for every day of production, I believe. And then another makes a lot of sense. Seems like the bare minimum.
And we have someone that does our job at least be there when the job is happening.
Do you want them to?
No, we can't do that.
Just write it in a mini room and then mail it off to the director to be read in a totally separate scenario. But I think one of their demands is also related to the size of the rooms that writers need. They need a certain amount of staff to write a show of a certain length, and that's just reasonable.
Fair.
And then another one of the strict one, I believe, is that they want no content to be produced that is from a non-human source. They don't want shows to be written by an AI, which is basically seems like the trajectory right now for AI is that they can write an AI, you can feed it a bunch of content, right? Content made by a human. So there's an intellectual property issue there. You can feed it adventure stories. You could feed it Indiana Jones and, a bunch of other Spielberg movies. And then it can spit out an adventure script based on, these are the movies that people like. These generated a bunch of money, but sold a bunch of toys, spit out a script. And then what they would do is show that to one human writer who would make edits to it, necessary changes. And then you've got presto changeo. You've got a Hollywood script like that for a movie they think is basically guaranteed to entertain people.
Yeah. And it definitely seems like we're on that trajectory. I don't think we're at that point yet. I don't think
AI is not there.
Right.
It would be a lot of work.
It seems like AI is progressing extremely fast.
Technology changes happen exponentially is what people sometimes forget.
So this is definitely a fear that is justified.
Yeah. And to understand what I mean by exponentially, look at the technology changes from 1900 to 1950. And then the technology changes from 1950 to 2000. Yeah.
And then from 2000
to even just now, which is only 23 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Insane the amount of technological leaps that we've made.
Yeah.
Look at it in terms of video games.
When we were kids, there weren't cell phones as readily available and now no one has it out of their hand. Even right now, you're holding your cell phone in your hand.
The size and speed of a computer when I was a kid, compared to what is in my pocket every day now. Technology will progress so fast. Right, they're trying to protect their industry, and I think in a way they're also protecting the artistic soul and integrity of this industry of movies and shows. Content should have artistic love and artistic creation behind it. It should be from a human. Yeah, I don't want to live in that future where all my favorite shows are written by AI.
It seems like a lot of things are kind of moving towards the AI, or possibly AI could be taking all these jobs. But then that's going to create a much bigger problem, because if all these people aren't working, who's going to be spending all of this money making these companies rich?
Who's going to be able to?
No one is, because
Yeah.
no one's going to have money anymore.
You can't afford to pay for the streaming
something's-
service.
Something's going to break, and that's even outside of the movie industry. That's for anything, like Walmart employees, like just anywhere. Like if everything moves to AI, no one's going to have any money to buy anything.
But the cool detail about all of this, aside from all the complaints, the beautiful thing behind all of these issues is the support the WJ is getting. Because I just saw a clip of 50,000 students at a graduation. Well, an audience of 50,000, not all students, but cheering, "Pay your writers."
I was just going to bring this up.
David
I was like,
Zaslav.
okay, I made a little mental note. I was like, all right, after Andrew's done with his point, that's what I want to bring up. That's hilarious.
And then all the
pay your writers.
Yeah, awesome. And then all the support from other actors in the industry, other directors showing up with food, showing up to picket alongside the WJ, alongside the writers, showing their support in it whatever way they can, bringing out, making picket signs, doing whatever. And then the other industries, the other unions, the Directors Guild, the Actors Guild, and the Teamsters, which if you don't know what the Teamsters are, they're the people who bring everything to production. They drive the actors onto set. They drive the set pieces onto set. The Teamsters have decided to refuse to cross anywhere there is a WGA picket line. Anytime you put a WGA picket line in front of a production, it's basically going to halt, because the Teamsters aren't bringing the actors and bringing the actual sets and necessary materials to the production. They can't make the production. So also keeping in mind that in the next 2 months, the contracts for all three of those, Teamsters, directors, and actors, all three of those contracts are up too. So we're just going to wait and see what's going to happen, because all these people are getting shafted in different ways. They're all getting, unfair pay. Directors are getting underpaid. The minimums are unfair for a lot of these professions. The workload's too high.
And all these companies, again, they're bringing in billions of dollars.
The profits are higher than ever on record. Recorded profits are higher than ever. Recorded pay is not meeting that demand. It's at an all-time low for writers. But I think it's cool to think that they've all already locked arms and just wait till these contracts are up, because they are going to give hell to entertainment media in order to get what they deserve. And I'm all about supporting it.
Let's go. That's what I'm talking about. I've always wanted to be a part of a workers' strike. I just have always wanted to stick it to the man, you don't own me. You don't control me.
Most people want to stick it to the man.
You can't do this without me.
Most people who aren't the man want to stick it to the man, because who wants to say, "Oh, I want to be a good company man." You want to get what you deserve. And that's all they're asking for. It doesn't seem like they're asking for anything unfair.
Yeah. 2%.
Bare minimum.
Especially when you're all profits are as high as they have ever been.
They are crazy high.
But yeah, so we kind of ended that writer's strike there talking about AI. And it's funny because there's this trailer that I saw earlier this week from a movie that is basically an end of the world kind of movie about AI stuff, AI robots and whatnot. It's called The Creator. So we actually just watched that trailer before we started this episode, and it looks fire.
Yeah, there's something powerful about picking the right song for your trailer.
Yeah.
It makes the world of difference.
Yeah. So what did you think of the trailer? Did you know that this movie was coming out?
This movie was not
on my radar.
Wasn't on my radar at all either. I had no clue this movie existed, and just recently, we just watched this trailer. So I just saw this trailer 20, 30 minutes ago.
Yeah.
And I think that the trailer was really stunning. It reminds me of Chappie, or what's the one, District 9?
Mm-hmm.
It reminds me of, it has a futuristic or a sci-fi look, but it has kind of this Star Wars rustic aesthetic to it, like the original trilogy, the kind of rusted over future. And I think it looks really good. Visually, The story looks really interesting. I'm always here for the parallel, that kind of found daughter parallel, the Last of Us, or the father child, Mandalorian, the God of War
project.
I'm always there for that. It's super rich with emotion. It looks,
cinematography looks fantastic.
Dude, he already in the trailer, she's like, they wanted to kill me, and I'm like, burn the world. Don't let them get her. This cute little girl, but she also has that ex machina look where every second she's on screen has this she has a special effect nature to her. Like I'm guessing, obviously just simple motion capture stuff because her face is on there.
Yeah,
But
it's funny that you said it kind of looks like Star
I say
Wars.
simple, but
It's funny that you say it looks like Star Wars because
Gareth Edwards.
Gareth Edwards directed Rogue One, and he's also the director for The Creator.
Yeah, I think that it's really cool because he's obviously got this stellar sci-fi experience behind him directing Rogue One, a Star Wars story. I mean, that was a beloved Star Wars project. It looks awesome.
I think it's the best looking Star Wars movie.
I agree. And it's a great story. And this movie has John David Washington in it also as a star. And he just looks awesome. I know
Denzel
people...
Washington's son.
Yeah, I know people don't love Tenet, but I really liked him in Tenet. He brings a lot of physicality to the nature of his roles. He was like a football player. I think he was a collegiate football player. So he's a really physical fit person, good physical actor, and he's got a lot of talent. I mean, talent flows in that bloodline.
Yeah, so that's a movie that's kind of on our radar now. Let's see, when does it come out?
I got you.
They not have that on IMDb. I have the page pulled up here, but I don't see the release date.
The Creator release date, September 29th, 2023. A September release.
Yep, there it is.
That's one of my, it's jumped to my like maybe top 10 most excited projects this year very quickly with such a quality trailer. The music is like a little haunting, a little creepy. The little girl looks super, super cool. And I'm excited for that relationship dynamic. Plus like you said, AI, rising interest in that topic.
Yeah, for sure. I'm excited for that one too. Another trailer that just dropped that we just did an episode on for a live trailer reaction is the Mission Impossible Rogue One, Part 1. Sorry.
Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1.
Dead Reckoning. There we go. Rogue One. It's the Star Wars movie.
Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol
Fallout.
Dead Reckoning Part 1.
That just dropped, so we did an episode reaction to that. That trailer looks fire.
God,
and then
that's cool.
Fast 10 just came out in theaters as well. That trailer kind of looked like...
That trailer looked really good.
It looked interesting.
I thought it was a good trailer. The motorcycle flip, the cool way they used
that was the trailer where we're like, did they just implant her into...
Yeah,
did
it's
they
some
switch
crazy.
their brains? Like what?
At least they're not in space. That's going sci-fi. But
Yeah.
that movie opened up to a whopping 300 something odd million opening weekend.
Okay, so the reason Andrew brings that up is because it's part of our box office draft. So at the very beginning of this year, before any movies came out, we drafted
5 movies each.
team of 5, and whoever at the end of the year made the most money wins. I'm trying to see what episode that was.
So we get
Take a look at
the
it.
joy of competing with each other back and forth all year, just basically shit talking each other a year long. For as our movies come out, we get to...
Looks like it was episode 50, so you can head back to that episode to watch, which
That
is
was
on
fun.
each team. That was a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun because it's like,
Continuing.
yeah, it's keeps coming up.
And you're obviously
Every
having a lot of
episode.
fun.
I'm having a blast right now. And the reason I'm having a blast is because Mario was on my team, baby. Is over here. Guess how much it brought in? I'll tell you.
$50.
I'll tell you. $1.25 billion.
Yeah, it just crossed over. I think it's the 3rd highest grossing animated movie of all time.
That's crazy. I thought it was going to do good, but I feel like that's a little
Superseded
higher than I was
expectations.
expecting.
Nobody could have predicted that. I don't think anybody could have predicted that accurately.
So I did put predictions on my movies when I was creating my research for the box office.
Yeah, would you have that
draft.
one at 800 million?
I had Mario, which I drafted in my 3rd place spot.
You lucky son of
And
a
it
bitch.
might bring me in the most amount of money. I had it going at 700 to 900 million. So it exceeded that by 500 million, which is less money than
Last weekend
Ant-Man made.
Last weekend it came in 3rd in the box office, so it's still bringing in, like, I think last weekend it brought in $3 to $5 million, so it's still bringing in money.
So I also have Guardians on my list, which that brought in, as of right now, again, right now it's May 22nd, that brought in $660.5 million.
With like a 2 or 3 weekend run.
Yeah. So that brings my total right now to $1.9 billion. Andrew, what's your total right now?
So I had First, I had the astounding Ant-Man come out and absolutely decimate the box office with a week 475 million, almost 476 to be fair. After that, we had Fast 10 come out, which to be fair, just came out.
Yeah.
Just had one weekend far. And it's Monday today. And it has already made $318,500,000. So it's a super stellar opening weekend. The movie did really, really well overseas.
Only overseas is where it did well.
It only made 67 million domestic, but it brings my total up to 794,480,000. So
Ooh, you got a lot of ground to make.
I got a lot of ground to make up, but Fast and the Furious can still do a lot of heavy lifting for me. It's a weekend behind your movie.
It really can.
And my upcoming movies are also kind of rock stars because I still have Spider-Verse to come out in a couple weeks, Mission Impossible to come out, and then I have Barbie to come out as well. So maybe competition breeds success and Barbie carries my team home. We'll see.
No, as the year has gone, I've definitely gotten more and more nervous about my last two picks, which are the Marvels and Aquaman. I've not heard good things about Aquaman, but man, Jason Momoa puts people in the seats.
I feel pretty strong not picking Indiana Jones, but I feel a little nervous that I didn't pick The Flash. I wish I could have subbed out Ant-Man for The Flash, but who would have known Ant-Man would do such trash numbers?
Yeah.
I wish I could have had The Flash instead there.
And The Flash has a lot of hype going behind it right now.
And if I didn't pick the Ant-Man...
Just because there's a lot of hype doesn't mean it's as good as everyone says it is. Because people are making crazy claims.
Like Tom Cruise saying it's the best superhero movie ever made.
Like, people are making a lot of crazy claims. And Ezra Miller can get arrested tomorrow. And they pull the whole thing.
I just think maybe if I hadn't picked Ant-Man, then maybe you would have picked it. And that would have been...
I think I would have. Yeah. It was on my list.
Yeah, that would have been so much safer.
Yeah. Let's see, on my predictions, I had... in my order, I wanted Guardians, Little Mermaid, Mario, Mission Impossible, Ant-Man.
Should have trusted my gut.
That was my
trailer was mid.
My order.
So how far are you ahead of me right now? You have 1 million or 1,800,000,000?
900. Yeah. So quite a ways away. Guardians is still in the theaters, so I think it could possibly bring in 200, maybe 300 more. In the next few weeks. I think it had a lot of high reviews, especially as of how not good Ant-Man was.
Well, Fast 10, I think, had a bigger opening than Guardians, didn't it?
I think so, because it's already halfway there, and it's only been one weekend for them.
It tends to bottom off after a couple weeks.
Yeah, I mean, when you have like movies that are like high action movies with little bit of dialogue or very simple dialogue, like where every other word is family, it does really well overseas.
They're like, I don't even have to speak English. I just get to watch Dom Toretto backflip into a somersault, kick 15 guys in the face, save the world.
Man, it's crazy. These movies are out of control, man. I'm trying to pull up Guardians right now. See what it did opening weekend.
You can't take the heat, get out the kitchen. I thought I remember the number being 280 million for their opening weekend. Very impressive opening weekend.
I think you're right. I'm almost there. Opening weekend. I only see the opening weekend for the U.S.
Yeah, everyone was posting domestic, which was a much better domestic than Fast 10. Hope it continues doing well in the overseas market. Guys, let us know in the comments who you think is going to win the box office draft.
Yeah. Andrew, you might have a chance.
I'm praying because Ant-Man kicked me in the nuts.
Dude, that was rough. You need Barbie to do really well.
Speaking of getting kicked in the nuts, how come HBO Max keeps doing it to themselves?
This is so dumb, man. Like, they literally went from like the top 2, maybe even the top streaming service, and now they're like quickly going to the bottom. They're dead, man. They're gone.
I still wouldn't.
There's Paramount, and then there's
whale poo.
Yeah, and then there's
HBO Max.
No, it's just Max now.
Excuse me.
Which is so dumb, right? Like, why not just call it HBO?
So they're putting out a new app that you is, if you look it up, still says coming soon because it's not out yet. But they're, instead of changing the name of the HBO Max app to Max, they're putting out a new app called Max.
That's so dumb. Because now all the people who have HBO Max have to go out of their way to download a separate app.
People like me.
Yeah. And like TVs, you know, like smart TVs and stuff, they have to like develop those apps or whatever. So we might not get that app right away on the TV.
On top of all that, there's a recent IndieWire article that says HBO Max has dumped 87 projects off their platform. And I've never really understood the idea of unless you have a licensing agreement with another property that's coming to an end. Why ever? I believe they say it's in the name of like curating, and Disney's doing the same thing. They're like curating their platform, like things that are getting low views or not doing well, they're dumping off so it's not cluttered. But just don't put it on the home screen. If you search it and it's still there, for whatever small group of people that still want to watch it, it's still beneficial to them. I mean, what are they running out of hard drive space? Like, why dump 87 titles?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like everything about this move doesn't make sense. And I guess the reason that they did it is because they're like merging, was it Discovery?
Warner Brothers Discovery.
Yeah, so they're merging things together. But why get rid of the HBO Max or the HBO name? That's what's recognizable. Max isn't recognizable. HBO has been around for so long and it's always been associated with like top of the line movies and shows. You know, like they were the fourth runner. They were the top of the game. Like back when I was still like watching cable and stuff, the only extra streaming service people would have would be like HBO and Stars.
Dude, Game of Thrones, The Wire, The Sopranos. Like,
yeah, like, and it's like, hey, you want to watch a good show? And it's like, yeah, what is it? They're like, it's blah, blah, blah. It's on HBO. And I'm like, oh, well, I'm poor, so I can't watch that show. It must be really good. And I always thought of this thing as like, oh, like HBO, and now it's Max. So when you search Max, how many things on Google come up?
a million things.
Billion
I mean, they're gonna
like Max. What?
I have to imagine they had to pay somebody else who had the app name Max for the rights to that.
Yeah,
To take that out from under them. It couldn't have been free. Just, hanging out there.
So it does come up first right now when you search it, which I'm sure they had to pay a pretty penny to get it that
To
way.
Google, yeah.
But when you type in HBO is the only thing that comes up when you're searching for that. Like
They also used to have HBO Go. Like this has been a long road for them because they used to have HBO Go and they used to have DC Universe, which DC Universe was a platform that just had all DC content. You could read some comics on there. It had all their animated movies, shows, live action movies. And then they melded it together and we had HBO Max, and now that has like Studio Ghibli, DC projects, all this kind of stuff. And like they just keep going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't understand, man. I really don't get it. Paramount was my least favorite, and I feel like this is slowly getting there. Paramount more so, but just because of like the interface.
I'm still happy with HBO or Max because of the content. I mean, it's just they're getting messy. But so our last topic is still related to HBO. So we want to talk about some of the latest news with DC. They have some casting news that's been coming out. Are you excited? How are you feeling? Because there's news for what, Creature Commandos and for Superman Legacy.
Yeah, I feel like I'm kind of impartial. I don't.
That wasn't one of the options.
Oh,
I'm just kidding.
I feel like I'm kind of impartial. It's kind of like, oh, Robert Pattinson is the Batman. It's like, okay, I'm excited to see what he does with it, but I'm not necessarily jumping out of my seat. I don't really know what to expect.
You mean that's how you felt at that time, but now we love Robert Pattinson as the Batman?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's how
Just checking.
That's how I feel now about kind of these casting options that are coming out. I'm like, okay, cool. I'll
wait to reserve judgment.
Yeah, exactly. What do you think? Who's rumored to be who?
So first of all, we'll start Superman Legacy is what's most popular. So there's talks for what's this gentleman's name? Keeps evading me. Okay. So there's talks for...
That's what I mean. Not jumping out of our seats here.
Never heard of this guy.
Yeah.
Until now. David Cornsweet in talks to play Superman. And then there's talks for Nicholas Hoult to potentially be Superman or Lex Luthor. We don't really know what the conversations are behind closed doors. I feel like it's some of the things I've been looking up recently, it's all rumors, but seems to be leaning more towards Lex Luthor. He's a really phenomenal actor who's kind of missed out on the turn for a lot of big roles, like Batman included. So I think he's a really skilled person. I mean, hopefully he put a good turn on Lex Luthor. This Corn Sweat guy has the look for Superman. So we'll see what ends up being the truth. And then there's some rumored casting for Lois Lane as well. Let me see if I can find the name here.
It's not Margot Robbie, right?
Emma Mackey.
Okay. Because Margot Robbie has been rumored to be in the Fantastic Four, right? Have you seen that?
Oh, yeah, rumored as Sue Storm. All these rumors flying about. We need some freaking announcements.
I know.
But the rumors for Superman have at some points included Jacob Elordi. I believe he denied that rumor. It's included Tom Brittany, Andrew Richardson, two people I haven't heard of. And then for Lois Lane, Emma Mackey, Rachel Brosnahan, Phoebe Dynevor, and Samara Weaving.
I think it's kind of smart to cast people that maybe aren't household names. You know, that way...
Let them grow into the role. Let them make it their own. No preconceived notions.
Right, exactly. And, like, everyone really loved the casting before of Superman, you know, being Henry Cavill, us included. So, like, it'll be hard to fill those shoes. And I think if they're starting with, like, kind of like a clean slate, you know, to where they're kind of maybe flying under the radar and maybe people are feeling how maybe me and you are feeling kind of neutral about it, that when we go and watch the movie, we'll be blown away.
Yeah. We do have actual confirmed castings for Creature Commandos, though, which is the animated show for... that's one of the things that's going to kind of kick off the Gods and Monsters, or this first saga for James Gunn's DCU. And Creature Commandos is one of those animated projects, but James Gunn also was quoted saying that animated and live action are going to cross over. So we'll see what happens. But the star of the show seems to be Frank Grillo as Rick Flag Sr. If you don't recognize the name Frank Grillo, he's Crossbones in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. David Arbor is Eric Frankenstein, and we all know David Arbor as Hop or Hopper from Stranger Things. He's also Hellboy. Indira Varma is... she's Bride, which this character seems to be based off Bride of Frankenstein. Alan Tudyk is Dr. Phosphorus, which Alan Tudyk is this, like, he's a really funny and talented actor. He has a TV show, what's it called? Like where he's an alien. What's that called? I can't recall. But he has a newer TV series where he's an alien. And people will recognize him if they saw his face. Maria Bakalova is Princess Ilana Rustovic. Hope I'm pronouncing that name right. But she...
Heard it both ways.
I personally know her most from voicing Cosmo in the Guardians movie and the holiday special. But she has made a name for herself as an actress in recent years. Sean Gunn is going to be playing both G.I. Robot and Weasel, who's reprising his role as Weasel in the animated format, which I think we saw him come back to life at the end of The Suicide Squad. Zoe Chow is Nina Mazursky. And then Steve Agee will be returning as Johnny Kanamos. If you watch Peacemaker, you know Johnny Kanamos, you know Steve Agee and Sean Gunn are both staples that always appear in James Gunn's projects.
I'm intrigued. I don't know much about this story, you know. I think it's interesting that they're starting the universe off with an animated... is it a movie or a series? Do we know?
It's a series. I believe it's an animated series.
Okay. So that's an interesting way to kind of start off your new cinematic universe, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I'm down for it. I think a lot of people might skip on it, which is unfortunate because it is animated. It's a TV show. It's also on Max, and that's going to be hard to find because it's Max instead of HBO.
I like the fact that it's going to cross back and forth over. Like, it inspires me, like, to
I hope it does.
Interest in this unique concept.
Yeah, I like it, and I've seen some interviews with Frank. What's his last name? Grillo talking about it, and he seems pretty excited to be a part of DC. Every interview that I saw, he wasn't like announcing like what role he was playing yet.
Keeping it on in the sleeve.
Yeah, but he seemed like pretty excited, and I don't think he would sign up for a role that's going to be small. You know,
Yeah.
I think he definitely
Is
wanted
ready
to
for the big time.
kind of one up Crossbones, you know, and maybe kind of stick it to Marvel a little bit, because it seemed like he wanted a little more development from Crossbones, it seemed like, you know, which I feel like every actor in their role that's like I don't want to say side character, but a side character, you know, like they want more development of their character, which is totally understandable. They're putting in a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into developing that character.
It might be hard to tell too when you're signing onto a Marvel project, because they are signing multi-movie deals, which can be misleading. And then also some of these people who have a small role, like Black Widow in Iron Man 2, go on to be a humongous part of the franchise, and then a Crossbones is not the same thing. He maybe thought that he had a bigger villain role coming up.
Yeah, so I don't think he would sign on to a DC project without it being something that's reoccurring, something that's supposed to make a big impact. Maybe I'm wrong, but he seemed pretty excited for it. So if he's excited, I'm excited.
I like how they all look like they could play the characters in live action already, like looking at pictures of them. That's really, really exciting.
Right, especially if they're supposed to be crossing over into live action. That's important. And that means the animation will probably look like them, which is really cool.
Well, because you know James Gunn's not just going to want to CGI them and do a voiceover. So he made those castings with that in mind.
Yeah, for sure. What do you think of the Reed Richards rumors of
Adam Driver?
Adam Driver.
I'd really rather it wasn't.
That's funny. Care to elaborate?
Maybe it'll surprise me, but I like Adam Driver. I think he's a good actor. I think he's very talented. Haven't seen as much of his movies as I'd like to make like a better judgment, but I just don't like him as Reed Richards.
Right?
Yeah,
like maybe the smartest guy in the room.
He seems like he can play a tough guy and also play the emotional vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen like you said, I haven't seen him play like a nerd or a genius. So I'd like to see somebody maybe with a little bit more of a traditional kind of nerdy look. You know, I think his frame is a little large and wide. I'd like a little bit scrawnier Reed Richards if possible.
Krasinski.
That's not my pick for Reed Richards either. I don't think he has the look at all.
I think he kind of fits it. He's a little bit bigger, but
that's never who I've been a supporter of. That's never who I wanted. I like the guy who played him back in the day, back in the Fox movies.
Yeah, I thought he was great too. I feel like he kind of resembles John though a little bit.
I didn't see that at all. John Krasinski looks very like, especially after playing Jack Ryan. I think he looks very large. He's very handsome. I don't think he looks like.
But is Reed Richards traditionally not handsome?
I don't think he's traditionally
feel like he is handsome.
He should look like he could have gotten picked on in high school. Is how I want. Yeah.
You're decent looking, but like the guy with the laptop definitely got picked on in high school.
Oh yeah, we got
a little shout out to one of our previous comments that we've gotten on a video.
Shout out to our favorite commenter of all time.
Andrew's not salty at all, by the way. Those comments just roll off like raindrops, you know.
Clearly, we never think about them again.
Yeah. They don't hurt us at all.
Speaking of, we can close out this episode with some comments since we're bringing it up. I actually have some good ones.
Yeah, you got some ones?
I got positive ones right here.
Oh, no, you don't.
Yes, I do.
You're making these up right now.
This is from our boy, Michael Pyle, who has left us a few comments on our episodes that we appreciate. And
is this on YouTube?
Yep, going off YouTube.
On our full episodes. Or is it off of a short?
It's on a full episode.
All right, let's see.
So this comment is from our Best Action Hero Battle Royale episode.
That was a fun episode.
Go back and check it out if you haven't seen it. Michael said, "Y'all make me start these convos with friends and point them to your channel." So
let's go.
If you're not like Michael, get like Michael. Pointing us out to your friends and family, it does a huge help to the show. And it's cool to think that people are having these conversations back at home with their friends, like because we had this conversation somewhere and we wanted to have fun. So and we like that.
That's kind of why we started this in the first place, you know, because we were like talking about movies and stuff all the time, and we're like, hey, like maybe some other people would want to join in on the conversation, you know, like that's what we like to do with the other podcasts and stuff that we listen to. So that's really cool that people are enjoying it enough to talk about it outside of just watching the episodes.
And we're trying to shout out these comments on the show as well now. So if you have the time to comment on these pages, we'll interact with you on the show, which I think is a lot of fun. Because Michael goes on to say, but you got espionage way... Oh, maybe some context for this episode first.
So on this episode, which it is episode 87, we talked about the best action star out of John Wick versus Ethan Hunt versus James Bond versus Jason Bourne. And we came up with a few categories and we ranked them in order of best to least.
Yeah.
I don't want to say worst because we thought they were still skilled in that category, but we thought the other ones were better.
Yeah.
So we ranked them in the order of who we think would win this category. And one of the categories was espionage.
So he went on to say, but you got espionage way wrong. We have to take them the way they were written and presented, not what they could do with more time, money, backing. IMO, we see Ethan as the most successful spy, maybe Bond next, then Bourne. If you got one mission to use espionage to save the world and they are deployed just as we see them in the movies, what's your rank then? Feels like the barbershop talk of last shot in the game, 7 of the NBA finals, who gets the ball? Like, so he's saying like, he's talking about what I was saying in that episode, which I was saying like Jason Bourne.
Yeah.
Can get more done with less. And I'm talking about how if he had the opportunity to access to the things that Hunt has, then he could do way more than Hunt.
And I
think he's making a fair point.
I was saying basically he's like backing me
Yeah.
up here a little bit. I was saying like you can do, if you do more with more, you're doing more. And we haven't seen Jason Bourne do more with more, but we've seen Ethan Hunt do so. So let's just give him the ball, like he's saying. He's execute this mission.
So that question is, it boils down to like alien, the Martians come down to Earth. They got the death beam pointed at Earth. Who you handing the ball to?
Yeah,
I'm handing the ball to Jason Bourne. And despite the fact that I see this point, because
what is he gonna do? He's gonna go and attack this mission.
I'm saying
just his gun. And,
all things considered
and his
equal.
Smarts, like,
all things considered equal. I'm giving it to Jason Bourne. And in reference to your specific question, all things not equal. Fine, I'll give it to Ethan Hunt.
And that's what we're talking about, how their characters are written.
It's tough,
you can't just rewrite the character.
It's tough, though. I mean, Bond, like he said, Bond a close second. I guess in these conditions, based on what they have, Bond just has so many more tools.
Yeah.
And then Wick is like not the guy for espionage. He's the guy for blasting heads off shoulders.
Literally everyone knows who it is.
That's John Wick.
You working again?
Baba Yaga. But yeah, thank you, Michael.
Thinking I'm back.
Thank you, Michael. I seriously do appreciate every one of the comments that you've made. So I'm glad to have you listening to the show.
Yeah, and that's cool too that he's sharing it with friends. I think that helps the show out a lot, to reach new people. So if
because it'd be cool to have people and their friends like both in the comments, and like if we disagree, I'll argue with your whole friend group. Like, let's do it.
Maybe we have someone on the show one day from the comments and we hash out a topic.
That would be a great idea. Like if we've done giveaways before, to do like a random, have somebody on the show, comment on this, we'll have you on the show, whether it's through Zoom if you're not local. That'd
be a lot of fun. I mean, we're trying to think of like new ways to kind of take the show to the next level. We got some things in the works, and that might be one of the things to add to the list.
In that case, I'd say we even let him pick the topic too.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe we like go back and rehash a topic we've already talked about and kind of see a new perspective of that topic. That'd be really cool. But yeah, we post new episodes every Monday and Thursday on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. That's where you see the full episodes. And then we post clips and other movie and show comic related things on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube Shorts every single day. So you can comment on those and interact with us and maybe even get some movie news, kind of like from today's episode. So hopefully you guys learned something. Hopefully you guys are having fun. And that's a wrap.